Rediscovering the Emotional Brain. Continuing with our survey of the shortcomings of cognitivism and critiques to address these, the next big issue is cognitivism's long-term neglect of emotion. Science had not always ignored the topic of emotion, as Antonio Damasio explains. By the end of the 19th century, Charles Darwin had made incisive observations on the expression of emotions in animals and humans, and had placed emotion in the perspective of biological evolution. William James had produced a scientific description of the phenomenon of emotion, thus opening the way to its experimental study. And Sigmund Freud was writing about the means by which emotion might play a role in psychopathology. Somebody freshly arrived on Earth in 1994 and interested in the topic of emotion would have good cause to wonder why such groundbreaking developments did not lead to an assault on the neurobiology of emotion. What could possibly have gone wrong in the intervening century? The simplest answer is that emotion has received benign neglect from neuroscience and has been passed over in favor of the study of attention, perception, memory, and language. End quote. Jaak Panksepp is one of several eminent neurophysiological researchers who are currently asserting that the emotions are a product of evolutionary selection and that they are fixed and universal across the human species. Quote, I have argued that the capacity to have affective feelings is an evolutionary birthright embedded within the intrinsic and ancient organizational dynamics of the mammalian brain, situated largely in subcortical realms known as the extended limbic system. End quote. This is in sharp contrast to the standard social science model, which claims that emotional behavior differs significantly between cultures and that individuals learn to experience the emotional expressions appropriate to their culture, rather than inheriting a universal range of emotions at birth. Panksepp takes this further by arguing that emotions evolved to provide fast-acting signals for guiding behavior in accordance with the requirements of survival and reproduction, or what Panksepp calls biological values. Quote, my view affirms that the evolution of emotional feelings was linked to the special needs of brain memory systems that must rapidly encode intrinsic biological values. End quote. Another researcher in this field, Edmund Rolls, expresses this role of emotion by claiming that their evolution enabled genes to specify goals and rewards rather than behavioral responses themselves. Quote, the theory that genes set many goals for action does not mean that our behavior is determined by genes. Modern evolutionary theory has led to the understanding that many traits, particularly behavioral ones, may have some genetic basis, but that does not mean they will inevitably appear, because much depends on the environment. The power of the theory of emotion described here is that in evolution, genes specify rewards and punishers that are goals for action, but do not specify the actions themselves, which are flexible and can be learned. End quote.